If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This deep dive is on the other 500 plus point Adeptus Custodes Forge World aircraft, the Orion Assault Dropship. This giant chunk of resin will set us back a cool 690 points as of October 2025. The first week of Custober 2025 had the Ares gunship, which was only 580 points. What does the Orion dropship do that adds the extra 110 points? Worse overall ranged weapons and transport capacity. The Orion dropship has the largest transport capacity in all of our Custodes range. We will take a look at the datasheet as well as the detachments that offer the most support to the dropship. I will leave out the ones that offer nothing or next to nothing. The Orion Assault Dropship has a movement of 20 plus, toughness 12, a 2-up save with a 5 plus invulnerable, 22 wounds, 6 leadership, and an OC of 0. It also has a big 160mm base. For the ranged weapons, we have the Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannon, 36-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on a 2 plus, strength 12, AP 3 damage D6 plus 1. The Twin Lastorm Bolt Cannons, 36-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on a 2 plus, strength 6, AP 1 damage 1 with sustained hits 1. The final ranged weapon is the Heavy Bolt Launcher, 36-inch range, D6 plus 6 attacks, hitting on a 2 plus, strength 7, AP 1 damage 2 with the Blast ability. For melee weapons, we have the Armored Hull, 9 attacks, hitting on a 4 plus, strength 9, AP 0, damage 1. Keywords, we have vehicle, aircraft, flyer, Imperium, transport, and Orion Assault Dropship. For war gear options, we have 2 Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannons, 2 Twin Lastorm Bolt Cannons, and 2 Heavy Bolt Launchers. When the dropship is at 1 to 7 wounds remaining, subtract 1 from the hit roll. This model has a transport capacity of 12 Adeptus Custodes infantry models. This model can also transport 1 Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought, 1 Achilles Dreadnought, or 1 Galatus Dreadnought. While doing so, its transport capacity is reduced to 6 Adeptus Custodes infantry models. For the abilities, we have Deadly Demise D6, Hover, Martial Kata, and Assault Dropship. Assault Dropship, if a unit disembarks from this transport before it moves until the end of the turn, that unit is eligible to charge in a turn in which it advances. A unit disembarks from the transport before it moves, we can advance and charge that unit. Now, the first thing you may notice if you watch the Ares gunship deep dive or are familiar with the Ares, there is no Magna Blaze Cannon on the Assault Dropship. For some anti-tank, it does have the 2 Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannons for a total of 8 shots with a tanky toughness 12, 22 wounds, 2-up save with a 5 plus invulnerable aircraft unit. Like the Caladius Grav Tank, they do hit on a 2 plus. Unlike the Caladius Grav Tank, these blaze cannons are not twin linked or have the lethal hits into monster or vehicle ability. They do have the Bolt Launcher, which is damage 2, and the Lastorm Bolt Cannon damage 1, good for anti-infantry shooting. It has some decent guns. What about those abilities and transport capacity? The ability Assault Dropship, this is a bit different than the Land Raider's Assault Ramp. We can move the Land Raider, disembark, shoot and charge. The Assault Dropship, we have to disembark before the dropship moves. The disembarked Custodes unit can now advance and charge. Advance and charge is very useful. Having to disembark before we move the dropship does make it a bit wonky. We may want to move it to set up an advance and charge on our next turn, while the opponent will have a whole turn to move away from the dropship. The fact that we have to use this before the transport moves is what makes this a bit harder to set up. What about our transport capacity? 12 Adeptus Custodes infantry or 6 infantry and a Contemptor Dreadnought. The Venerable Land Raider can transport only 6 Custodes infantry models. It is only 220 points though. 12 Custodes infantry or 6 infantry with a Dreadnought advancing and charging out of a dropship would feel awesome though. I like my Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. Dropping a zombie Dreadnought out of the dropship sounds fun. What about infantry? We have a lot of options. A character with a 5 model unit like Wardens or Custodian Guard. How about 1 or 2 units of 6 Alaris who can disembark 3 inches and then advance and charge? Then we have the Venatari. The Venatari are an infantry unit as well with movement 10 inches. A unit of 6 with a Dreadnought or 2 units of 6 inside the dropship. We could even do 2 units of 3 and a unit of 6, all disembarking 3 inches, moving 10 inches, and then advancing and charging. That is a 3-inch disembark, movement 10, an average 3-inch advance, 7-inch average charge equals a 23-inch average charge. That is a lot of threat range from the Venatari. When we take the Orion Assault Dropship, other than the 690 points for the model, we also need to think of the units inside. Do they work in the detachment we are using? How many points does this add to the total Orion Dropship combo? 12 Alars in a dropship is a huge threat. It is also 1,410 points for 12 Alars in a dropship. Ouch. So far, I'm even less sold on the Orion Dropship than the Ares Gunship. I want to take a look at some detachments to see if we can find some hidden gems for the Orion Assault Dropship, just like we did with the Shield Host and the Ares Gunship. Let's take a look at the hover ability rule first. Feel free to skip this if you've seen the Ares video. The Orion Dropship can be deployed either as an aircraft or in hover mode. The aircraft needs to have the hover mode ability to be able to run in hover mode. Some aircraft do not have this. You may be like me and had not really read up on aircraft or hover to actually confidently play an aircraft. I decided to go through all the aircraft and hover rules from the core rules and the core rules update commentary. Here are some of the rules to help with using the Orion. I won't go through them all, more so the relevant information. Feel free to pause and take a look for yourself. As we get into the aircraft rules in 10th edition, you may notice they are not friendly to aircraft models. It seems if an aircraft model has the hover ability, you run it in hover. There are some exceptions, but a lot of the time you just run these in hover. In hover mode, we lose the aircraft keyword and the rules associated with being an aircraft. The Orion in hover mode would become a vehicle unit with the fly keyword. A movement 20 inches flying tank with transport capacity and a lot of guns does not sound too bad. For the hover rule, some aircraft models have the hover listed in their abilities. When you are instructed to declare battle formations before doing anything else, you must first declare which models from your army with this ability will be in hover mode. If a model is in hover mode, then until the end of the battle, its move characteristic is changed to 20 and it loses the aircraft keyword and it loses all associated rules with being an aircraft model. Models in hover mode do not start the battle in reserves, but you can choose to place them into strategic reserves following the normal rules if you wish. Here are some rules that have to do with the unit has the fly keyword. You can move over enemy models, even monster and vehicles. Moving over terrain is going to be a pain though. We have to measure the whole distance. Unlike 9th edition where we did not measure the vertical movement, we do measure the vertical distance traveled in 10th edition. What about the Orion Assault Dropship as an aircraft? The first thing to know when using an aircraft unit is that they must start the game in reserves. Another thing to note is that only units that are themselves placed in reserves can start the battle embarked within an aircraft model that are in reserves. Luckily, there was a Q&A, and aircraft models don't count toward the actual point limit when we're putting our units in reserves. So in the tournament companion, we can put a total of half our unit in reserves. This big 690 point aircraft will not count towards that 1,000 points if we were playing a 2,000 point game. Next, we have aircraft and movement of other models. Units can still make a normal or advanced move if they are only within engagement range of an enemy aircraft. Models can move within engagement range of enemy aircraft, but cannot end a move within engagement range of an enemy aircraft. Aircraft models can move over other aircraft when they make any kind of move. Aircraft can only make a normal move and can do so even when within engagement range of enemy models. Aircraft must move straight forward at least 20 inches and then can make one pivot up to 90 degrees. Aircraft that cross the edge of the battlefield or that cannot make the minimum move are placed into a strategic reserve. So if we can't make that 20-inch move, or if we go over a board edge with that 20-inch move, we have to put that aircraft into strategic reserves. Next, we have the aircraft in the charge and fight phase rules. Only units that can fly can charge or make a melee attack against an aircraft. Aircraft cannot charge, pylon, or consolidate and can only make melee attacks against units that can fly. When a model piles in or consolidates, unless it can fly, ignore aircraft when determining the closest enemy model. Like the Ares gunship, running the Orion in hover mode is a great way to play these giant aircraft, turning them into a flying tank. Aircraft mode does make some sense when using the Orion, flying around, shooting stuff, and then dropping some Custodes or Dreadnoughts off. What hurts this tactic is start the aircraft in reserves rule. Finding a place to disembark before it moves is going to be hard. It may even be up to turn 3 or turn 4 before we find a good place to disembark, advance, and charge the units inside. The first detachment I want to take a look at is the Talons of the Emperor. The Detachment rule is Revered Companions. It comes in 2 different parts. Psychono units gain the following ability: Null Aegis. While Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of this unit, that unit will gain a 5+ Fatal Pain to psychic attacks and mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes units from your army gain the following ability: Deadly Unity. While a Psychono unit is within 6 inches of this unit, the Orion Dropship, each time a model in that Psychono unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. We will always like any rule that protects us from mortal wounds. Being within 6 inches of a Psychono unit will be a bit harder with the Orion Dropship. It does have that big 160mm base though. High movement and the fact that the Orion can fly around the board will make this both easier and harder to be within 6 inches. There will be no Psychono units in the enemy deployment zone or even in the mid-board for the first few turns. I want to take a look at a few of the Talons of the Emperor stratagems that will help the Orion Dropship. Our first stratagem is Empiric Severance for 1 CP. This will give the Orion Dropship a 4+ Fatal Pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. We do need to be within 6 inches of a Psychono unit to do so. Usually I'm not too excited about this stratagem. A 4+ Fatal Pain to mortal wounds is very nice. Being within 6 inches of a Psychono unit to allow us to use Empiric Severance within 6 inches of a Psychono unit means we already have the 5+ Fatal Pain from mortals and psychic damage from the Detachment rule. A 690 point aircraft with 600 points of model inside. For 1 CP, a 4+ Fatal Pain to the hated mortal wounds is 1 CP well spent. Next up is Hunt as 1 from 1 CP. This is our fallback, shoot and charge stratagem. This is a hover mode stratagem. When the Orion is in engagement range, it will be hitting on a 3+ instead of the 2+. No reroll hits or wounds on the Orion datasheet. Shooting this at its 2+ is the ideal play. 1 CP, we can use Hunt as 1 to fall back, shoot and charge the Orion. Charging is not something we'll be doing with the Orion Dropship though. Then we have an interesting stratagem, Talon Pincer from 1 CP. When the enemy ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches of the dropship can make a normal move up to 6 inches. This is a sleeper pick for the Orion Dropship in hover mode. We can move the dropship a flat 6 inches when the enemy unit ends a normal, fallback, or advance move within 9 inches. Moving it away 6 inches from a charge or line of sight is always a good move. The fun thing we can do is move it forward 6 inches. Then in our turn, we can disembark the units inside to advance and charge them. The disembark combined with Talon Pincer adds 9 inches to a unit's advance and charge range. Talons of the Emperor is the weakest of the 3 detachments we're going to take a look at. It does have a fallback, shoot and charge stratagem, Mortals protection from the Detachment rule, and Talon Pincer has some great potential. Does adding 6 inches to a unit's charge range make it worth taking the Orion Dropship? No, it does not. It's a neat trick, yes. Reason to take the Orion? No. I give the Orion Dropship a 3 out of 10 in the Talons of the Emperor. The next detachment is the Shield Host Detachment. The Detachment rule is Martial Mastery, where if your model has the Martial Kata ability, which the Orion Dropship has, we can either have critical hits on 5+ or an extra AP1 in the fight phase. The Orion Dropship knows Custodes Karate. Now with sustained hits 1 or lethal hits on a 5+, with the boost to AP, we can have an AP1 Armored Hull melee attack. Armored Hull still only hits on a 4+. We might be able to crush a few 1 wound models to death. I'm not sure why GW put Martial Kata on the vehicles. Dreadnoughts, heck yeah. Grav tanks and aircraft, I'm not really sure why. On to the stratagems that can help buff up the Orion Dropship for the Shield Host. Our first stratagem is Archaeotech Munitions for 1 CP. This will give our ranged weapons lethal hits or sustained hits 1. This is such a great stratagem for Custodes vehicles with a lot of shots. Luckily, the Orion Dropship does have a lot of shots. 8 Blaze Cannon shots, 2d6 plus 12 damage 2 shots, then finally 6 Last Storm Cannon shots. Remember when you're looking at the weapons, there is 2 Blaze Cannons, 2 Bolt Launchers, and 2 Last Storm Cannons equipped on the Orion Dropship. Sustained hits 1 is the best choice most of the time. Ideally, we roll hot on the Blaze Cannon shots. The more Strength 12, AP3 damage d6 plus 1 shots, the better. A stratagem that is worth using and saving 1 CP. Next up is Arcane Genetic Alchemy for 1 CP. This will be a 4+ Fatal Pain against mortal wounds, and the great thing about this stratagem is we can wait until those mortal wounds have been allocated. The best way to get damage through on Custodes are mortal wounds. The Orion Dropship is no different. This is a single unit. There are no models to die to stop devastating wounds from spreading. Mortal wounds can tear this aircraft apart. Arcane Genetic Alchemy gives the Orion a 4+ funeral pain to mortal wounds. 1 CP is well worth it for this stratagem, and is well worth saving the 1 CP for this stratagem. Next is Multi-Potentiality for 1 CP. This is a fallback shoot-in charge stratagem. The Orion does not have the 3-shot Magna Blaze Cannon. Shooting this at its full 2+ to hit is not as important. It does have 8 Arachnus Blaze Cannon shots that hit on a 2+, and engagement range that will bring them up to a 3+. It really depends on the targets that can be shot at to use this 1 CP for fallback shoot-in charge. Remember, this is when we are in hover mode, aircraft mode, units simply fly out of engagement range. They can still shoot and do all the things of a normal turn as well. The Shield Host is a good detachment for the Orion Dropship. It adds some shooting power with Archaeotech munitions, mortal wounds protection from Arcane Genetic Alchemy, and multi-potentiality for a fallback shoot-in charge. Does it add enough to convince me to bring a 690 point model with 500+ points of models inside of it? Nope, not at all. 1000+ points in one unit is bad for the Custodes. Our board control would be dreadful. I give the Orion Dropship a 4 out of 10 in the Shield Host detachment. Just take 3 Land Raiders instead. The last detachment we're going to take a look at is the Solar Spearhead. The detachment rule does have 2 different parts. Auric Armor, while an Adeptus Custodes vehicle unit from your army is at starting strength, unless that unit is an aircraft or is battle shocked, add 2 to the objective control of models in that unit. We also have while an Adeptus Custodes vehicle unit from your army is below starting strength, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. The final part of Auric Armor, while an Adeptus Custodes vehicle from your unit is below half strength, each time a model makes an attack, reroll a hit roll and a wound roll of 1. The other part of our detachment rule is Moratory Ancients. This is for our walkers/dreadnoughts. The Orion Dropship is a vehicle model. It would get the 2+ OC at full strength while running in hover mode. The Orion Dropship loses the aircraft keyword when running in hover mode. Below starting strength is where we want to be though. We want those big blaze cannon shots, re-rolling their hit rolls of 1. Below half strength, the Orion would be at 10 wounds remaining. Then the Orion would get to re-roll a hit roll and the wound roll of 1. It's not a walker model, so no enhancements or anything like that for the Orion Assault Dropship. On to some of the stratagems that will really help power up the Orion Dropship. Our first stratagem is Flawless Construction. In the shooting or the fight phase, if the incoming attack strength is higher than the toughness of the Orion Dropship, -1 to the wound roll. Flawless Construction is normally a great stratagem for keeping our vehicles alive. The incoming attack needs to be Strength 13+ to activate this stratagem on the Orion Dropship, since the Orion Dropship has a toughness of 12. A great stratagem that will see less play than on our lower toughness vehicles like the Grav Tanks or the Dreadnoughts. The good thing is, those really high strength attacks are usually a low shot total. -1 to the wound roll can really make a difference. Next up is Punishment Inescapable. This is used in our shooting phase. Until the end of the turn, the Orion Dropship ranged weapons would ignore cover and any or all modifiers to the attack's ballistic skill or the hit roll. Ignore hit modifiers is a decent ability. It means we can use this to shoot at our full 2+ to hit, even when it's in engagement range or at 1 to 7 wounds remaining. The part of the stratagem I really want is the ignores cover. All the smaller guns are AP1. Cover is so easy to get in 10th edition, they might as well be AP0. Ignores cover will give us better anti-infantry potential. The Blaze Cannon's AP3 ignoring cover will give us some great anti-tank potential. It depends on your list how much we may want to use this on the Orion Dropship. 8 Blaze Cannon shots ignoring cover is a real anti-tank threat for 1 CP. Next up is Relentless Persecution for 1 CP. This will allow us to advance and shoot our Orion Dropship. The thing to note is when you use this on a walker unit, that walker unit can advance and charge. We can use this to try to get some extra movement to get into line of sight with some important targets. The problem is, there will most likely be Dreadnoughts that may want to use Relentless Persecution to advance and charge. It is a 1 CP option to get the 8 Blaze Cannon shots into a certain target. It is a D6 advance. Try not to use it the mindset or the tactic, if I roll a 6, something might happen, because rolling a 6, a lot of the time, that's not going to happen. The last stratagem is Unstoppable for 1 CP. In your movement phase or the charge phase, this allows us to move through terrain features. Another stratagem that will be used in hover mode only, We can use Unstoppable to smash through some ruins to deliver some blaze cannon death. Once again, like the advance and shoot stratagem, the dreadnoughts in our list might be using Unstoppable to get around terrain features too. Dreadnoughts who have a shooting and melee threat. Once again, a situational stratagem, but another tool in the toolbox. Like most of our vehicle deep dives, the Solar Spearhead makes a case for the best detachment for vehicles. The Orion Assault Dropship is no different. There are ways to buff the survivability, utility, and damage in the Solar Spearhead. The problem is the points cost. Unless it goes into the 400s, I do not see it as a viable option in a Custodes list. The Orion Assault Dropship gets a below average score of 4.5 out of 10 in the Solar Spearhead. The guns and transport capacity are just not worth the price, nor do I think it ever will be in 10th edition. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. Well, that was disappointing. We usually find at least one out of our 6 detachments that can make a unit work. The Orion Dropship didn't even make an average score of 5 in any detachment. The guns, transport capacity, and abilities are not worth the points cost. We try not to judge units on points in our deep dives. These Forge World aircraft have been around the same points or not changed at all in the 10th edition. Safe to say, the points are not going way down anytime soon. The Orion Dropship might have the honor of being our worst unit. It is at least the worst unit on our Hubtown Hammer deep dives. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access and access to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.